Welcome to Your Cyber Path, the podcast that helps you get your dream cybersecurity job by sharing the secrets of experienced hiring managers and top cybersecurity professionals with you. Now, on to the show.
One of the things we talked about is experience. And if you don't have experience, this can be a big blocker in the cybersecurity industry because it's one of those really hard areas when you're looking for a job. Nobody wants to hire somebody who doesn't already have experience because it's a huge risk. And when I hire somebody, it costs me a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of political capital in my organization if I'm using somebody else's budget to do it and all those kinds of things. And so this brings up the biggest question I get from students all the time, which is, if I have no experience and no one will hire me, how do I get experience, right?
It's a paradox.
It is. It's that catch-22 that happens all of the time, right? It's, we want somebody with experience, but there's not enough people with experience out there. Well, to get more people with experience, we need people to hire them. But nobody wants to hire somebody if they don't have experience. And so we have this big infinite loop of nobody getting any better, right? And at some point, companies are going to have to step up and say, you know what, like I did with this programmer, we'll take a chance on you. If it doesn't work out, we'll give you 6 months. We'll try to train you. If you're running still and you're doing great, we'll promote you from within and all that works out great. The flip side of that is, as a candidate, you have to realize that if you're coming with less experience, we as employers are taking a chance on you. You are not going to command the same salary as somebody who has more experience than you. Right. And so if I'm hiring somebody who has 5 years of experience or 3 years of experience and they're making $100,000 a year, you as somebody with zero experience may make $50,000 or $60,000 a year because I have to discount your pay because you're not going to be as valuable to me as the person who knows what they're doing. And it's going to take me time to build you up to there. And when you get to there, then you'll be making that money too. So keep that in mind too, as listeners, when you're thinking about this. If I don't have experience and somebody's willing to give me a shot, just realize that offer is probably going to be a lowball offer because they're taking a huge risk on you. Right. Now, we talked a little bit more about this idea of experience back in episode 58, and we interviewed somebody whose name is Ed Sipka, and he's actually been on the podcast, I think, 3 times at this point, because his career has just been like on a rocket fire trail. And every time he's like, hey, this now happened. We're like, come on back and talk about it again.
He's a star student.
He's awesome. And episode 58 was the first time he was on the podcast, and this was actually titled How to Get Hired with No Experience. And this is how he broke into the cybersecurity industry. And why I think it was really interesting, spoiler alert here, is that Ed doesn't come from an IT background. He actually has a degree in music, which has really nothing to do with IT at all, right? But he found some transferable skills. He used his networking, he used his soft skills, and he was able to get himself a job in this industry. So if you want to listen to the full episode, it's a great episode. It's over at yourcyberpath.com/58 or 58. But for right now, let's take a quick listen to what Ed shared with us, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Here we go.
Would you tell us a little bit about your first IT job, how you got that position? And if you didn't have any experience, right, in your first IT job, how did you get over that hurdle?
So my first IT job was a tier 2 job for the government. So anybody's got a problem, you're there replacing software, hardware. The big catch-22, like you said, I had a friend, and I count myself incredibly lucky living on Oahu. There's a lot of contracts around, and I knew a few people. But they gave me a chance. That's what they said. And you look for that one person to give you a chance and to endear yourself to that person that will give you a chance. I got an interview and they said, hey, you have a background. You already have a bachelor's. You have no IT experience whatsoever. Well, you tell you can learn things. You can pick things up quickly. And if you could find a subcontractor to our contract, hey, we'll give you a chance. But you got to do that and you got to get your Sec Plus. So they knew I was a straight and narrow guy who could learn. They liked me in the room. That's always generally good. But they said, find a subcontractor, get your Sec Plus, and we'll give you a shot. You have a 90-day probationary period. You're going to do what you're going to do with that. So I talked to some people. I found a subcontractor. We went through my resume. I was coming from an educational background. I actually went to Berklee College of Music for music education. So I had a bachelor's, but no certs whatsoever. I didn't have A+, Net+, Sec+, but I had a degree and a passion for it. So talked to that person. They said, hey, we'll get you on the path for whatever you need for the back end of government work. And you got to get that Sec Plus. So that's when I started. And Jason's classes really helped me a lot. You got to get that Sec Plus by this date. And I did that and they gave us a chance. And you quickly find out that Googling is one of the skills that you have to learn very quickly. But that's how I got that first job. I had someone that gave me a chance and I had a little bit of a background, and I could show that I could learn, I could pick things up quickly, and that I was willing to do. Not, hey, I want this job. This is what I'm looking to get paid to do. It's, I have an ability to learn. I want to learn. I'm here. I'm a sponge, and I'm ready for it. That's how it all started.
So there's that word again, Kip. As I was listening to Ed, I heard him use that word passion, right? I heard it right in the middle of his clip about halfway through. He said, I showed that passion. They saw that passion and they gave me a chance. And so really what I was hearing when Ed was sharing his journey of breaking into cybersecurity without having prior IT experience is how he landed that first job through in-person networking and showcasing his ability to learn quickly. Ed's story really to me underscores the significance of finding somebody who's willing to give you a chance and demonstrates this general passion for learning and growth. The other thing I thought was really interesting was how his degree really didn't make a difference for him because his degree was in music and not computers, as I said before, right? And so his being willing to go out and get certifications and demonstrate that passion and meet the minimum contractual requirements for the position he was going into was really important. And you probably heard him say several times, security plus, security plus, security plus. Why did he mention it so often? Well, he even mentioned he's in Hawaii. He's on the island of Oahu, which is where Honolulu is, and there is numerous military facilities there. The job he was being hired into was as a field service technician, which is a level 2 job. And a field service technician job is the one who goes out and touches the computers when things break, right? They'll replace your keyboard, they'll replace your monitor, they'll make sure you get back on the network. And that way the remote engineers can log in again and fix whatever needs to be fixed. So it's a very low level IT job. But the great thing about that position is he did it for about 6 to 9 months. And while he was out there working in that position, he was using his soft skills and his networking skills, and he ended up finding a cybersecurity analyst role. And that's why he came back on the show back in episode 70 some odd to tell us about how he moved from this field service role into a cyber role because he was able to make that two-step into that technical role and then into a cyber role. And he was leveraging his in-person network. He was leveraging his relationships. He was leveraging his friends and people who are willing to take a chance. And so really his success was due to soft skills and people liking him in the room, right? And giving him potential as a future employee. What do you think, Kip? As you were listening to that, what came to your mind?
Yeah, first of all, it sounded like an echo of the previous clip in the sense that I thought about skills that cannot be taught, right? Was a big part of what Ed was mentioning, right? So like he demonstrated that he has learned how to learn. I can't teach that. I cannot teach somebody to learn how to learn. Like you've got to show up with that because I just don't know. I need that because everything's changing. Cybersecurity is changing all the time. Every time a new technology shows up, we have to change. We got to figure out how do you secure this thing? Is it like anything we've ever seen before? If it isn't, what do we do here? And so there's so much self-learning. Another crucial skill that I cannot teach. There's another skill that he talked about too, which you said soft skills, but I want to put a finer point on that. He showed empathy for what the hiring manager needed. He really listened to them and figured out what this person really wanted, a successful person in the job to do. And he either was able to show them that he had that now or that he could get that quickly. And I think that was a big part of why they were willing to give him a chance is because they said, this guy gets us. He understands, what it is we're trying to do here. And that empathy, I can't teach empathy. I have no idea how to do that. But if you show up with empathy, I can tell and I like it. And this translates into something else that we say a lot, which is people like to work with people that they know, like, and trust.
Of course.
All right.
Yep.
Empathy is going to get you so far down the road of being known, liked, and trusted by hiring managers. And I think that's another thing Ed was just really good at was showing up and doing it in a way that he made himself a little bit vulnerable and people like that. And so that got him to be known, liked, and trusted enough to be able to be given that break. Now, I also want to say that this is rare. It's rare
Yes.
for you to find somebody who will give you a break like that. And why is that? Well, it's because most employers are so risk averse to a mishire that they won't even risk it. And a mishire is an awful, awful thing not just for the employer, but for the employee. If you've never been mishired as an employee, count yourself lucky, because I can't imagine, very many situations that are worse than starting a new job. I'm all freshly scrubbed and ready to go. And 60 days into it, they go, this just isn't working out.
Yep.
We're going to have to let you go. How do I explain that? Right? That is an awful thing. Now, it's a little black cloud following me around as I try to get a new job.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I wouldn't say it's the kiss of death, but it's awful to try to explain that. You don't want that. So,
Well, especially in like the government
just,
contracting world too, right? Because let's say I wasn't in Hawaii, but I took that job. Now I moved me and my family out to Hawaii for this job, and 60 days later you fire me. Oh crap! Now what am I going to do? I moved
yeah,
out here for that job. I was all the way in Florida. I moved halfway around the world, right? And that becomes a big issue too. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is, Ed was very lucky. They were willing to take a chance on him, and they were willing to make him an offer before he had his Security Plus. And the reason this is so critical is because in the government contracting world, when the government writes a contract, it says, okay, I need 50 people to do this job, and here's the requirements. And one of those requirements is what certifications they're required to have. Security Plus meets about 70% of the DoD 8570 requirements, which means about 70% of the positions require that certification. So if you don't have it and they hire you in as a contractor and you can't get it within 6 months, they are required to fire you. They cannot keep you on past 6 months because you're no longer authorized to do the job. And so most government contractors will not even hire you if you don't already have your certification, because they're afraid that you either won't get around to it, you'll be too busy, you might not be smart enough, and you'll fail the exam. Whatever the reason, if you don't get it, they now have a mishire, because even if you're doing great work, they legally cannot keep you on the contract and they've got to fire you. This becomes really
exactly.
important when you go into those other 30%, which is where you have to get the cybersecurity analyst type certifications like CYSA Plus, Pen Test Plus, or CEH, which are harder than Security Plus. Or if you're in an IAM, which is an Information Assurance Manager, level 2 or level 3, which requires a CISSP. The CISSP is a certification that only about 15 to 20% of the test takers who take it will pass on their first time. And so I've seen many, many more people who have gotten fired from their jobs because they couldn't get that CISSP done in 6 months. The average study time to get a CISSP is anywhere from 3 to 9 months. So 6 months is a pretty tight window on that. And most people who take it, even those who pass, will tell you it's probably one of the hardest exams there are in IT. And so if you're going to apply for jobs that require it, I will tell you, most employers will not take a chance on you unless you already have it. So study and get those certifications first, because it does de-risk it for the employer. And now they're just worried about, are you a good cultural fit and can you learn the job? Not can you pass the test where I'm going to be required to fire you.